Hello student, let's start the next topic about syllabus. That is nothing but in last period we have seen capillary action and we have seen the example of capillary. How the capillary action get created, that we have seen one of the best example, the blotting paper we have seen, lamp and wick example that also we have seen. Now here the next part of the topic is what? How the capillary level rises or it is fall down when we put this small bore cylindrical capillary tube deep in liquid. It is seen that in some liquid the level get rises to the normal as compared to normal, and in some cases the level get decreases or it is said to be fall down. Now the question is, why in some liquid the level get rises, why in some liquid level get decreases than the normal level, that we have to see. So that is action, actually capillary action we have to see. For that, let us consider this is a beaker we have taken. Suppose in this beaker, this we have taken as a liquid, and this liquid is suppose the liquid which cannot weight the solid completely, just like a mercury. So it is just like a mercury type of liquid we have taken, and we know that as when we put the mercury, cohesive forces are very much stronger. So at the top we get convex part. So this is convex part. Here in this case, we have considered the 4 point. Point A, which is inside the capillary, outside the liquid, just above the liquid surface. Inside the capillary, outside the liquid. The point B is again inside the capillary, but inside the liquid. So see, point B comes below the liquid, inside the capillary, inside the liquid. Point A, inside the capillary, outside the liquid. Similarly, take another 2 point at the same horizontal height. The point C at the same horizontal height as A. Height of A and C is same, so we should write it, they must be at the same height. So this is point C, which is exactly horizontal to point A, such that point C is outside the capillary, outside the liquid, outside the capillary, outside the liquid. Point D, again the another point D, which is again equal horizontal height as of that of B, which is again outside the capillary but inside the liquid surface. So these are the 4 points we have to consider to understand why the liquid level in capillary fall or it get rises. In case of mercury, it get fall. So we have to say capillary fall. Capillary level, this is the normal level we have drawn. It actually practically it is seen that it comes to be downward direction. Now why and how it comes, that we have to see. For that, let us consider this 4 point. After that, let us consider the pressure at point A is PA, pressure at B is PB, pressure at point C is PC, and pressure at point D is PD respectively. Let us consider PA, PB, PC and PD are the pressure at this point A, B, C and D respectively. Now here, as we know, if you remember in last video we have seen, whenever there is a concave part, on that concave part side, that concave part side has larger pressure than the convex part side. So that topic already we have finished in last period. In last video we have seen, whenever concave part is there, if upward is a concave, upward pressure is greater than downward. If the concave part is downward direction like this, convex it is, the downward pressure is greater than the upward. So in this case, the concave part goes in downward direction. So it is concave part in downward direction. So we can say by that principle, pressure at point B must be greater than pressure at point A, because concave side pressure is always greater than the convex side pressure. So pressure at B is greater than pressure at A. From that we can determine this. So we can write this formula: PA is less than PB or PB is greater than PA. After that, A is outside the capillary, outside the liquid, at the same horizontal height as that of C, and both are in the atmosphere. So we can write, and pressure at A must be equal to pressure at C, and that are nothing but what? Atmospheric pressure. So it is atmospheric pressure, and that is nothing but both pressure must be same, because these are the pressure of atmosphere. They are not inside the liquid. Apart from this third part, if we see this point C and D, they are below the plane surface. This surface is plane here. It is convex here and here, but here it is plane. So under the last topic again, whenever there is a plane surface, pressure from both sides is same. So by that formula we can write pressure at C must be equal to pressure at D, because these are the plane surfaces. So we will write here plane surfaces. Below and above the plane surface the points are, so their pressures are same. PC equal to PD, but PC equal to PA we have mentioned here. So we can write here general formula: PA equal to PC atmospheric pressure, and these are the plane surface, that must be equal to PD. And finally, as we have written, PB is greater than PA. Here one point is inside, other point is outside the liquid. But here D is a point inside the liquid, and as PA equal to PD, put this value in this equation, we can write pressure at point B is greater than pressure at point D. Just put the value of PA as PD here. Pressure at point B is greater than pressure at point D. Now this is the reason why the liquid level in the capillary falls down. See, this is the reason. B and D both are the point inside the liquid at the same horizontal height. Still, the pressure at B is more than that of D. So there is a pressure difference. And due to that pressure difference, the liquid falls down in the capillary unless and until the pressure at B and D is same. And that is the reason why the capillary get fall down. Are you getting this? I will try to explain you once again. When the pressure at B is greater than pressure at D, still they are in the same liquid at the same horizontal height. There is a pressure difference between these 2 points B and D. So to manipulate this pressure difference, to manipulate or adjust this pressure difference, what will occur in the capillary tube? Liquid fall down to the height below the normal level, up to which when the pressure at point B is equal to pressure at point D, it will stop. And up to that point it get fall down, and that's the reason why this level get fall down in the capillary tube. So it get fall down like this. So this we point get, this is the point A we get here, this is the point B we get. Now at this height below the liquid, this height below the liquid, the pressure at B is equal to pressure at D. And when it get equal, it will stop, and then it never get fall down further. It will fall down up to the height when the pressure at these 2 points is same. Initially pressure at B is greater than D, that's why it get fall down. And this is a basic working principle of capillary tube, and why the liquid level in capillary tube falls. This is the reason, because there is a pressure difference. Same thing would be there in case of capillary fall. We have seen in case of capillary rise, exactly same thing it occurred. In that case, instead of mercury, you can pour water. Just see in your book, there is figure 2.24a and 2.24b. In that case, instead of falling the liquid rises in the capillary tube up to the height. When the pressure at point B and D is same, it will stop rising. And when it gets stop rising, means what? The pressure at the both point is same. Again, there is what? Pressure difference between point D and B also there in case of liquid. So in that case, that just like water in a glass, the liquid rises. Mercury in the glass, liquid fall down. So that is nothing but a capillary action. So simple way we have just used to demonstrate this. Now let's go to next expression for capillary rise or fall. Now we have to determine expression for capillary rise or fall. How the capillary tube level get increases or decreases, for that we have to derive the expression. So let's start with this expression. So this is an expression for capillary rise or fall. Okay, that expression we have to derive. By this method, we can derive the expression by 2 different methods. The first is nothing but this we have just written here, using pressure difference. By using pressure difference, we can find out the rise or fall of capillary tube, liquid in capillary tube, by the pressure difference. And second, that is nothing but using the forces, equating the upward forces equal to downward forces. So we'll go one by one. So first of all, we'll go toward this, the using pressure difference method. By using pressure difference method, we have to derive the expression for rise or fall of capillary tube, liquid in the capillary tube. How much it get rise, height we want to find out. How much it get fall down, h we want to find out. That we have to consider under this topic. So for that, let us first of all, we know that as liquid was kept in a liquid, suppose we have taken as a water was kept in a beaker. So we will draw it here, one diagram, another diagram like this. So this is the liquid level, this is nothing but a capillary tube, and this is the normal level, this is again the normal level. And in this capillary tube, the liquid level rises because we have taken here as a water in contact with a solid is nothing but what? That is glass beaker. In this case, this is normal level, this is the actual rise of water level in a capillary. So this is height h, and that h we want to find out in this case. Now in this situation, for that we have to use one equation, that equation of pressure difference. So pressure due to liquid, in this case, our case water column at height h, must be equal to pressure difference of twice T by R. The pressure due to the liquid, in our case due to the water, at height h must be equal to the pressure of twice T by R. Why it's taken as twice T by R? Because it is concave part. For concave part and concave geometry, pressure must be equal to twice T by R. Now what is the equation of pressure? If you remember, we have derived that also. That equation we have derived H rho G. H is the height of capillary, rho is the density of the liquid, G is the acceleration due to gravity. That must be equal to what? Twice T divided by R, where T is nothing but a surface tension of the liquid, R is said to be radius of curvature of concave meniscus. So this concave meniscus is here, and that concave meniscus has a radius of curvature R. So that formula we have put, and we have just used an equation. Of that equation we have used the pressure equations. The pressure of liquid, that is water, must be equal to twice T by R because of this concave shape of meniscus. So we will just equate them. So it is H rho G equal to 2T by R. Now here we want to find out the radius R first. So let's look at this diagram. In this diagram, this is a concave part, and this we have drawn a tangent, and this is angle measured inside the liquid, that is said to be angle of contact theta. And here I have drawn this as a radius of curvature we want to find now. So if you consider this as a center here somewhere, so from this center we are going to find out this distance. This will give the radius of curvature. And let us suppose small r, here the small r is radius of capillary tube. This is capillary tube. This central tube I have zoomed it here. So this capillary tube whose radius is small r, and this capital R, if you find out, we get radius of curvature. Simple thing we have to use. If this is theta, this is again theta. Okay, conjugate angles. And here find out cos of theta from this. Cos theta is what? Adjacent side means this divided by hypotenuse. Small r divided by capital R. Adjacent side is small r, hypotenuse is capital R. From this we can write down. So this equation implies that capital R equal to what? R divided by cos theta. R divided by cos theta. So we get this as the value of R. Put this value in this equation and solve this equation further. What we get, let's see. So we can write here H rho G equal to 2T divided by capital R. So it comes small r here, cos theta goes up. So we get this equation. Twice T divided 2T cos theta divided by R. So here our aim is to find this height up to which liquid rises in the capillary or up to which liquid falls in the capillary in case of mercury. So find out H. So H equal to what? 2T cos theta divided by R, and this rho into G. From this equation you can find out height or rise of liquid in the capillary tube can be find out by using this equation. 2T cos theta divided by R, rho G goes in denominator. So from this we can find out a rise of liquid level in capillary. Same way you can find out a falls of liquid level in capillary. Whenever there is a falls of liquid level, just like a mercury, H comes to be negative because cos theta comes to be negative. Theta become obtuse angle, it is greater than 90 degree. For theta obtuse angle, cos theta is always negative, and that's why this comes to be negative. H comes in minus. If it comes in minus, means what? There is no rise, there is a fall. That is only the difference. Apart from this, remember one point. If the width, or we can say radius of this capillary tube is small, it is seen that the liquid height, rise of height in the capillary get increased, and that was mentioned in the book also. So remember, if we have taken a very small bore, very small, fine bore capillary tube we have taken, it is seen that liquid rises at more height. If we increase the radius of capillary tube, the height get decreases. Decrease the radius, height get increases. So that you must remember. In short, if we take a larger capillary tube, there is not that much higher rise or fall in the capillary. But if you take a very small bore capillary tube, there is more rise in the liquid in the capillary, or there is more fall in the liquid in the capillary, depends on which type of liquid we will take. So that is nothing but this part. So here, this is the first method by using which we have find out rise of liquid in a capillary tube, that is height we have find out. In case of fall, theta is obtuse, the cos theta comes to be negative, H comes to be negative. H is negative means what? There is a fall in the liquid level, just like a mercury. So this thing we have derived the expression for capillary rise or fall. Here only we have just derived the equation for rise. Similarly, you can derive the same equation would be there, only signs are minus. That is nothing but for fall. This was done by taking pressure differences. Now second part we have to see same equation we have to derive by using different thing by equating the forces. So upward forces equal to downward forces, that concept we have to use, and we have to derive the same equation for this rise or fall of capillary tube. So let's go to second part using the forces. Upward forces equal to downward forces, that we have to use. So let's consider this capillary tube. This is the concave part of the capillary tube. That means what we have taken, again here we have taken water, so there must be rise in the liquid level as compared to normal. Now this tangent I have drawn, this is tangent, we can draw it here also. If this is theta, opposite angle merge with theta, angle of contact. Now here resultant force due to surface tension is Ft. This Ft is nothing but resultant force due to surface tension. And if you see, this tube is nothing but what? It is circular part. It is cylinder actually. It is circular part. So how much area is this? Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Okay. So this resultant force Ft can be written as, just we can write the equation for resultant force. So resultant force due to surface tension is Ft equal to, we can write Ft equal to surface tension of the liquid and total circumference. Suppose it has a radius small r, then we can write here it into 2 pi r. So this is a force due to surface tension, Ft equal to T into 2 pi r. Now resolve this surface tension force into two components, vertical as Ft cos theta, horizontal as Ft sin theta. If here it is Ft sin theta, here again Ft sin theta. Now these two components get cancelled out, exactly equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, so they get cancelled out. But this Ft cos theta, this component never get cancelled out. All are the vertical components. Here also there is vertical component, here also, here also. So these are the vertical component. That vertical component cannot get cancelled out. They get added together. So resultant force due to surface tension is due to only vertical component. Horizontal component get cancelled out. So total upward force we can find out as due to surface tension equal to T into 2 pi r into cos of theta. This total vertical force, and that total vertical force must be equal to total downward force. And what is the downward force? If you see this, whatever the liquid in this capillary, it has some weight, or we can say it has some mass, and that force due to gravity always act in downward direction, and that was given by W equal to mg. That is said to be downward force. Before going to further detail, just find out the value of mass. So we know density equal to what? Mass divided by volume. So we will write here small mass divided by volume. This implies that mass equal to density into volume. Okay, that formula we have to use. So what is the density? Rho. What is the volume of cylindrical tube, capillary tube? It is pi r square h. So we can write this as m equal to pi r square h. H is the height above which liquid rises, r is radius of capillary, pi is a constant, into rho. This is the mass. This is the mass. And what is the load then? The force acting downward direction, W weight, that is W equal to mg. And value of m is this pi r square h into rho into g. Suppose it is equation 2 and this is equation 1. So this Ft is what? Upward force. Total upward force, that is nothing but Ft given by equation 1, and total downward force that is given by equation 2. So upward force must be equal to downward force according to equilibrium, and by using that, if you want to put the values, I will write it here to this side. I will write the equation, further equation I will write here. So just upward force equal to downward force, that we have to equate. So equate equation 1 and 2. Equation 1 and 2, upward force must get balanced by downward force. Equate them. So we can write here pi r square h rho g. This equation 2 I have written. Okay. This must be equal to what? Equation 1, T into 2 pi r cos of theta. T into 2 pi r cos of theta. Now let's look at this. This pi from left side, pi from right side cancelled out. Okay. 1 r from left side, 1 r from right side cancelled out. So these things are remaining. Our aim is to find the height, rise or fall. So h equal to, here it is 2t cos theta, 2t cos theta, pi and r get cancelled out, divide by, what is the thing? Rho into g. So this equation gives us a height. and rho into G we have taken. This R is remaining, so R you should take. R, this one R na. So H equal to 2T cos theta divided by R rho G. So that is the height of capillary tube. Rise of level of capillary tube or fall of level of capillary tube. Now you can compare here the two equations we have written. This is the first equation we have derived by using the change in pressures. This equation and this equation both are same. So final equations are same. This we have calculated by equating upward force equal to downward force. This we have calculated by using the change in pressures. Change in pressures equating the pressure we have find out this equation. Equating the upward and downward force we find out this equation. Both the equations are same. Apart from this, if you remember, here directly you can find out surface tension from this also. Suppose someone asks you to find surface tension, you can find out value of T. So it is what? H into R into rho into G. This goes to numerator. Divide by 2 cos of theta. And if you find out this, we get a value of T. T means surface tension of any liquid can be find out once we know the angle of contact. All H is height that we can measure by using microscope. R, radius of capillary tube that we can measure by using vernier caliper or screw gauge. Density that can also measure mass per unit volume. G is a constant 9.8 that we know. The 2 is a number. If theta is known to us, theta means angle of contact we can measure. This also we can measure by using microscope. Once we get an angle of contact, you can find out surface tension of any liquid by using this formula. Or suppose we know all these things and we want to find out how much liquid rise or how much it get fall, that we want to find out, then just put the values, we get height, or we can find out the surface tension. So these are the topics that we have seen here. We have derived both equations by using the pressure, equating the pressure or equating the forces. Now let's go to next topic of our syllabus, that is fluids in motion. Now here, if you remember when we start the chapter, at that time we have seen some characteristics of ideal fluid. If you remember, characteristics, properties of ideal fluid. Now that part we have seen at that time, the fluid which is not moving, which is at a rest, that is said to be hydrostatic. The branch of physics which deal with the fluid which is at a rest, that is said to be hydrostatics. The another branch of physics which deal with the study of fluids which are in motion, that is said to be hydrodynamics. Remember, whenever word dynamics comes, so there should be the motion, and whenever the static comes, there should not be motion, it is in constant. So let's start with this, the fluids in motion that we have to see. So let's start. Fluids in motion. As now the fluid has some motion, so what we say, it is the branch of physics in which fluid is moving, and that branch is said to be hydrodynamics. One of the best example they have mentioned, whenever water get flow from the tap, when we open the tap or close the tap, water flow from the tap. Apart from this, cooking gas flow from the pipe, water flow from the pipe. These are the flow means what? Water is moving, gas is moving, particles are moving, and that means we can say fluid is in motion. That part we have to learn. Little bit, it is little bit complicated. Might be all of you are well known about river, canals that we have seen. In canal and river also, water is moving. So that is nothing but fluids are flowing. That is said to be fluids in motion. And the branch is said to be hydrodynamics. Now we will assume here only ideal fluid, because it is very complicated to learn this fluid in motion. So generally we will restrict our study to limited part only, and that part is nothing but will applicable to ideal fluid only, and that property already we have learned at the starting. So here they have given some definition. Let's start with that definition. First is the steady flow. As its name says that it is steady flow. Steady flow means what? It is constant, it is not moving, so that flow is said to be steady flow. What they have done, measurable property, just they have given definition, such as a pressure and velocity. Some measurable property of fluid such as a pressure and velocity of the fluid at a given point, if it is constant, then it is said to be steady flow. Some liquid is flowing, moving from one point to other point, but some measurable property just like a pressure, suppose pressure and velocity, if it is constant throughout, then we can say the flow is said to be steady flow. Liquid is flowing steadily. There is no change in velocity, no change in pressure, steady flow. Let's go to second part, flow line. So let's start with this flow line. Flow line means what? When we have just seen, when the liquid is flowing, the path of individual particle in the liquid is said to be flow line. Path of individual particle in the fluid which are flowing, that individual particle path is said to be flow. It is said to be flow line for that individual particle. So there are large number of molecules, large number of particles, large number of flow lines in the pipes, we can say. Let's go to next, streamline. What is meant by streamline? So it is streamline. It is one of the flow, or we can say one of the property of the fluids. In the streamline means what? It is a curve. It is a curve, and if we draw the tangent to that curve at any point, it will give the direction of velocity of flow at that point. It is a curve. If we draw tangent to this curve at any point, it will give direction of flow of velocity of that fluid in certain direction, and that is nothing but a streamline. The streamline and flow lines are same. Streamline and flow lines are same for steady flow. If you consider steady flow, the streamline and flow lines are same. Now let's go to the next one. Flow tube. The fourth property that we have, see, the flow tube. So these are the general descriptions they have given. What is flow tube? What is this? Flow tube is nothing but what? It is imaginary bundles of pipe or lines, imaginary bundles of line bound in imaginary wall, imaginary bundles of pipe or lines bound in a imaginary line, such that the fluid is flowing in that particular pipe without mixing with the adjacent layer. Then that is said to be flow tube. Flow tube is nothing but a imaginary bundles of flow of line bounded by imaginary wall. For a steady flow, the fluid cannot crosses the wall and they cannot mix with the nearest flow. So they can't cross. Fluid in adjacent flow tubes cannot get mixed. In italic what they have same thing. Let's go to laminar flow and streamline flow. Next one, laminar flow or streamline flow. So it is laminar flow or it is said to be streamline flow. What exactly this is? These are nothing but another thing that we have to learn. Laminar flow or streamline flow. It is a steady flow in which adjacent layer of fluid move smoothly over each other. See, laminar flow or streamline flow are nothing but what? The flow in which adjacent layer liquid flow smoothly. They are moving smoothly and they are just moving smoothly, but they are not mixing with each other. And one of the best example they have given, flow of river can be assumed as a laminar. Flow of river can be assumed as a laminar. Only suppose this part is moving, the another part is also moving, they are moving in same direction but they can't mix with each other, and that type of flow is said to be laminar flow. The next one, turbulent flow. The last one they have mentioned. Turbulent flow means what? If the velocity of the flow get increased beyond certain critical velocity, the velocity of the fluid increases beyond certain critical velocity, the flow is said to be turbulent flow. Turbulent flow is such that the flow at very high flow rate, the liquid or fluid flows in very high speed or high velocity, high flow rate, we can say. There is no steady flow. It is not steady because its velocity is changing with time. At different point the velocity may get differ, and that's why it is said to be turbulent flow. So here flow pattern changes continuously, and one of the best example they have given, in a flooded river, suppose in the rainy season there is a flood to the river, the flooded river, the water is flowing very fastly and quickly with variable velocities, and that type of flow is nothing but a turbulent flow. Same thing they have just given in their book, the two diagrams they have shown. Streamline flow they have shown, turbulent flow also they have shown. I will try to draw it. So streamline flow they have shown like this. So such type of flow which are exactly parallel, particles are moving exactly parallel to each other, this flow is said to be streamline flow. Exactly parallel, they are not moving to each other, they are not mixing. This is said to be streamline flow or laminar flow. But in case of turbulent flow, the velocity is so high that it can get increased or decreased at certain point. Certain cases the velocity get changed, there would be mixing like this. This is the example for turbulent flow. So these are nothing but they have mentioned the turbulent flow and streamline flow. Let's go to next, critical velocity and Reynolds number. Just you have to revise this. Just try to remember the definition of all these things. It's very simple to understand. Now let us go to next one. Reynolds number that we have to learn here. Might be all of you have heard this word Reynolds number, that was given by the constant actually. So critical velocity and Reynolds number. So let's start with this. critical velocity and Reynolds number. So this Reynolds number is one of the constant, and that is related to critical velocity. Just we have seen, if the velocity of fluid increases beyond certain minimum velocity, the flow becomes converted from streamline flow to turbulent flow, and that minimum velocity up to which it is streamlined, that velocity is said to be critical velocity. And if the velocity of the fluid is greater than critical velocity, then we can say liquid is in turbulent flow. The same thing, the relation was given, this relation was first time given by the scientist Reynolds, and that Reynolds has given the relation between critical velocity and Reynolds number, and that was given by equation 2.32 in your book. He has given the relation Vc equal to, Vc is the critical velocity of the liquid, equal to Rn Reynolds number into eta. It is a viscosity, I think, yes, coefficient of viscosity eta, divided by rho into d. Rho is nothing but density, d is the diameter of the tube in which the fluid is flowing. So this equation was first time given by Reynolds between critical velocity is related to this factor by this formula, critical velocity equal to Rn Reynolds number into viscosity, coefficient of viscosity, divided by density into diameter of the tube through which the liquid is flowing or fluid is flowing. Now this equation of Reynolds number, from this equation you can find out Reynolds number Rn directly. So just mathematical part is this. So Rn equal to what? Vc, critical velocity, rho into d divided by eta. So this will give the Reynolds number. This will give the Reynolds number, and this Reynolds number decide whether the flow of fluid is streamlined and whether it is turbulent or is in between these two. That was decided. See the next topic of the same, they have mentioned if the Reynolds number is less than 1000, this Rn Reynolds number is less than 1000, then we can say the flow is said to be streamlined. So the fluid is streamlined. So flow is said to be streamlined flow if the Reynolds number is less than 1000. If Reynolds number is greater than 2000, then the flow is said to be turbulent flow, because the velocity get increased beyond the critical velocity. Then the flow is said to be turbulent flow. Greater than 2000, the flow of fluid is said to be turbulent. When Rn is in between 1000 and 2000, if Rn is suppose between, this is 2000 and this is 1000, in between this Rn is less than and this is greater than, if it is between like this 1000 to 2000, then this stage is the stage where the flow start converting from streamlined to turbulent in moderate state, we can say. When Reynolds number has a value between 1000 to 2000, flow is neither streamlined nor a turbulent. It is a middle state, intermediate state, where the flow start converting from streamlined to turbulent, and once it crosses the 2000, the flow is said to be turbulent one. Okay, flow is said to be turbulent one. So here less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, like this, in between this, then we can say this is equal to, in between this, the flow is said to be intermediate state converting. Now let's go to next part. It is nothing but about viscosity. I think it is better to start viscosity in next video. Then in next video we will start this viscosity, and I think in next is the last video of the chapter, then we'll stop. So watch this video. Still, if you have some difficulties, you can ask or you can contact. So just watch my video, then read the same topic from your book for your better understanding. Okay, so thank you. Let's see you in next video.